Hello, welcome everyone. This is Cindy Silva. This is the Metaphysical Wisdom podcast. I'm here with my guest, Jerry Wellik. Hi, Jerry.
Hello.
Welcome. Just really delighted to have you be a guest on the show, and wanted to share with our listeners that Jerry was introduced to me by my friend James Breyer, who I interviewed last week. And James, I don't know the story. I'm going to have Jerry tell the story, but somehow there's a Qigong connection there. And Jerry and I had a conversation a week or so ago, and it was just delightful. And he shared some really valuable things with me that I wanted you to hear, and I wanted you to hear it straight from him. So here he is, and here we are. So Jerry, tell us a little bit about what brought you to Qigong, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Okay. Well, I guess what brought me to Spring Force Qigong, that's the kind that I study, was I actually was doing some work with a group in Minneapolis in Wayzata named Learning Strategies Corporation. And Paul Sheely is the founder of that. Are you familiar with that group at all?
Is that the positive psychology group?
No, it's, well, I don't know. It's kind of positive psychology, but it started out kind of based on neuro-linguistic programming. And
okay.
Anyway, he has a corporation, and I was taking courses with him. This was in the 90s. And he mentioned something about Spring Force Qigong. He said there's Master Lin. This was in 1998, I believe. I was at a workshop. And he said, you should get to know Master Chuni Lin because he's still available, and he's going to be one of those people that's going to be, he just knows he's bound to be somebody that's going to be international. So at that time, I purchased the level 1 and level 2 courses, and I was getting ready to go to Europe. So I really didn't get into them. I just said, okay, I'm going to Europe. I'll take them with me. I'll have plenty of time when I'm there. I was going to be teaching in England, and I figured I'll have lots of time to pursue this. Well, I took them with me, and I never opened them. They were just sitting. They were these old VHS. Sat on my shelves the whole time. Came back from England, and I was going through a lot of different things about 99, 2000. A lot of my friends were retiring, and all of a sudden, I became quite ill, and went to my family doctor, and he said, I'm a Vietnam vet. He said, it looks like you have PTSD. Guys your age, when they're in the 50s, this is a very common thing. You better go get this checked out. Well, I went to the Coburn Cancer Center for a series of tests. Came out, they told me, and I heard leukemia. Actually, the records then said I had pre-leukemia, whatever that is. I was just on the borderline where my white blood count was really out. But anyway, I went into this state of fear, and I got more ill. And I ended up going to, it was a holistic healer, and I don't even know what her name is. She was in Sartell, which is a suburb of St. Cloud. She did some muscle testing on me, and she said, oh my gosh, first thing, how much coffee are you drinking? And I said, oh my God, I don't even know. I was drinking a lot of coffee.
Mm.
And I was going to a lot of different schools, and, I was probably drinking 10, 15 cups of coffee a day.
Oh my goodness.
I tried to quit drinking, and, my headaches just got really much worse. But then I went to another workshop. I was just trying different things that she suggested, that I should look at what was bringing this about. Went to another workshop at Spring Force Qigong. I think it was either late 99 or no, it must have been after that. It was in 2000. And they were doing Spring Force Qigong for half an hour every day, or an hour before each class.
Mm.
And I would just start doing these exercises with this group of people at this hotel in Plymouth, Minnesota. And all of a sudden, just doing a very, very simple exercise, which is called moving of the yin and the yang, I just had this feeling I've never, it's just like a knowing.
Mm.
This is it. And then I was teaching a class at Anoka Hennepin at that time as a visiting professor there, and he was going to be doing a workshop that weekend. I signed up for the workshop, and that was I've been with him ever since. And my life has changed just dramatically. I mean, first I got into it, I just wanted to feel good, and got hooked. It was just so wonderful, and it was the best thing that could have possibly happened to me. So I'm grateful that I got ill. And now I drink just 1 cup of coffee a day. So anyway, that was kind of a long story, but that's how I got into it.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you for your service. Yeah, when we talked, you had mentioned about lung damage with Agent Orange, and that since practicing Qigong, you've been practicing for 20 years now, and you're a teacher as well. How long have you been teaching?
Well, I'm actually a professor emeritus, but I'm still teaching. I still have my office at the university, and I'm teaching now in several classes. I'm like a guest presenter.
Uh-huh. I mean, your Qigong classes, you're teaching Qigong as well?
Qigong, yes, I teach at the Whitney Senior Center, and then I'm also a certified instructor of Spring Force Qigong levels 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, wonderful. I didn't know that part. That's great. I'll have you come out and do some workshops in California. How's that sound?
I would love to do that.
Okay, we'll talk more about that. Let me get back to what I wanted to bring up about you had issues with lung issue from chemical exposure, and you've seen an improvement in that since practicing Qigong, and you feel like one of the comments you made was about how Chuni Lin says, like our body is malleable, we can heal, like he expects you to heal, right, through these practices. It's not like sort of a hit and miss. It's like you practice, you heal. So let's have you share a little bit about your experience of working with traditional allopathic doctors and what they have seen, the changes in you, and how you accredit Qigong to some of the ways that you've healed and improved your health.
Yeah, okay, that's there was a person, again, one of the first actually African-American master of Spring Force Qigong. He was studied with Master Lin for 19 years, was a guy by the name of James Nance, or Jim Nance. And I became good friends with Jim. But anyway, I had been to see the doctor at the VA, and they told me that I had lung damage. I said, well, it must be from Agent Orange. And they said, no, they knew that I smoked while I was in the Army. And they said, well, it's from smoking. But anyway, he said I had lung damage, but I was with Jim Nance, and he put me on this very kind of a specific program. He wanted me to just bounce with my hands above my head for 20 minutes a day he said, do this for 20 days and it'll go away. Well, I had this good relationship with him. I started doing that. And somewhere about the 10th, 11th day, something just lifted. And it was just a knowing. There's no words to explain what that feeling was. But I knew that had cleared up. And so then I had my lungs, I had them x-rayed again, and there was no scar tissue whatsoever. And so just the simplest little thing is, but it's that same kind of thing may not work for somebody else.
Right.
Certain kinds of things, most of us don't get our hands up above our head enough. So one of the basic Qigong exercises, there's this thing Master Lin has developed, and it's called the 5 elements theory of Spring Force Qigong. I think it's not unique to Spring Force, but it's working with the 5 basic organ systems: the liver, the heart, the pancreas, stomach, spleen. That's one system. The lungs, and then the kidneys.
Mhm.
And that's one of the exercises that's very, very good for the pancreas, the stomach, the spleen it's good for a lot of things, but most of us don't get our arms up above our heads enough. And so blockages occur in these different places. Like one of them is at the C7,
Mhm.
right at the base of the neck. About 80% of the blockages start there.
Mm.
So, and each of us is more prone for one reason or another because of imbalances. I mean, it's it's a whole theory of life, but it's based on traditional Chinese medicine.
Mhm.
Which Qigong is not brand new. It's about documented for over 5,000 years. They've been doing it. So.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're teaching and sharing it at the Whitney Center. And I'm familiar with that area. I lived there for several years. And I know that there's a few of my friends that have studied Spring Forest Qigong and really appreciate the teachings, and the website when I visit it's just full of testimonials of people similar to what you're sharing. Just the simplest thing, shifting the energy in a way that the body could restore itself. It's just like yeah, there's nothing missing, right? Everything is available. It's just that sometimes things are blocked from some kind of a pattern in the body that we've become. It's like a habit, right? That continues to get locked in place based on our behaviors. And then when we add something new or remove something, that pattern gets challenged. And if it can be freed up, the energy can move in new ways. I witnessed for myself in a group I led with some Qigong breathing exercises, a patient in my cancer welfare program who probably took the deepest breath of her whole life in that class, and it totally shifted something in her. And she shared it with me after and really made a difference. So I like that you're bringing in how simple and easy it can be, even though practice and repetition is important. We just never know when that one moment will arise when something can shift and liberation can occur.
Yeah, you said a couple things in there that were kind of gems for me. One of them is that, it's already inside of us, so that we to kind of rediscover that the kinds of experiences we have in life are based on how we are relating to ourselves and our relationship to ourselves. And I've become quite interested in especially that idea of the inner dialogue of what we're telling ourselves. I started out, it was very into storytelling. And as a matter of fact, I'm also a professional storyteller and a poet. And then I got into Spring Forest Qigong. But the thing that really resonates with me is that what we're telling ourselves, it has so much to do with what we experience. So the stories that we tell ourselves when we're, just with ourselves has a direct relationship of the quality of our lives. So that piece of it. So Spring Forest Qigong is message healing, information healing, signal healing. So we're giving a different message. So what happens is when we're in this place where we're connected and we're in sync with the universe, then the message that's sent, see, this is how we've learned in level 2 Spring Forest Qigong is to help others to heal. Level 1 is all about learning to heal yourself. And if everything is in level 1, actually. But most of us aren't ready to take it in. We can only take in so much. But as preparation for this and some other things I'm doing in my teaching, I've gone back to the level 1 manual, and everything is in that one manual. It's just that, I've taken levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 several times. All of those many different times, and continuing to learn from it. Because it's all right there. And it's all about how we live our lives. So that's, that was one thing that jumped out at me was it's inside of us already.
Yeah.
It's
Thank you for that.
it's just like revisiting and finding out that this, whatever it is, chi, the Western word for it is energy, but it's more than energy. It's chi. Chi has consciousness. Chi has intelligence. It's beyond what words is. I mean, words can say. It's something that's in us and it's all around us and it is us. And the divinity, the whatever you want to call it, the source is already inside of us.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that reminder.
And the words we use to describe it, it's been called lots of different things, but the universe, the source, the divine, the whatever it is.
Yeah. Great spirit.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. I remember, as a yoga teacher, I would tell my students how important the breath is. And I would say, you can go 4 weeks without food, 4 days without water, less than 4 minutes without a breath. And then when I started teaching Qigong, I started saying, and less than 4 seconds without Qi. Because that's, and though it's thinking about how backwards or upside down things are in our Western culture, where we fill up on food first. And if we're lucky, we're hydrated enough and we really don't breathe deeply enough. And we're not even aware of energies everywhere. All the empty space is full of energy. And in the traditions that we're studying, the masters would fill up on Qi first, and then breath, and then water, and lastly food. And so they ate very few calories. And that I heard that the fewer calories you eat, the longer you live. Now, I mean, obviously, if it's so extreme, you're starving, that doesn't work. But there's something upside down about that in our culture, where we consume so much of the non-essential and not enough of the essential.
Yeah, there's, again, going back to the level 1 Spring Forest Qigong work. And in the manual, he calls it the elements. So I don't want to confuse this with the 5 elements, but I'll call them the 4 major components of Spring Forest Qigong. The first, it's breath. So it's like that's very, very central to everything we do. A second one is posture and body movements. A third is visualization. And then the fourth one is sound. And so, I mean, but each of those things, but just speaking of the breath, when we have blockages, and all blockages have something to do with our emotions. When we have blockages, oftentimes then our shoulders go up, we breathe shallowly, and this helps to bring on illness, because we're causing blockages. So for instance, if my shoulders go up and I'm in an uptight kind of a position, then this place in around my C7, up in here, is going to be blocked. And so a very simple thing we can do is just to open that C7. And oftentimes then people just feel much, much better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just immediate that you start feeling differently.
Yeah.
Then once you feel differently, you want more of that. You want it. It's like, it just feels good. You just feel more free. And so that's what Master Lin always says, go back is feel it.
Yes, exactly.
Feel it.
Yeah.
And say it's just like, it feels good to be with you.
Yeah, thank you.
It just feels good. I say, yeah, I want more of this, because we're connecting at a deep level, talking and being in communication about something that we both are very passionate and love.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for sharing that. I feel the same. And what I wanted to bring forward, just before I forget, is how much I appreciate that we've come from different perspectives of Qigong, right? You have a lot more experience than I do, but where you talked about the 4 basic elements of breath and posture, sound, and movement or visualization. Yeah,
Visualization.
posture would be part of movement. I learned it a little differently, which we called it the 4 baskets of Qigong, which was breath and movement and visualization and self-massage. And so I love adding that 5th element of sound to my basket. Thank you for that. I mean, I do some of the sound healing, but I never considered it as the part of that package. And I can totally see that now. Thank you.
Yeah, well, there's something Master Lin says is there's actually thousands of different kinds of Qigong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just like, and it's, so I like the idea spring forest is just one of the forests it's one of the trees in the forest.
Mm-hmm.
It's not everything, but it's what you bring to it. It's like my practice of it, I start learning different kinds of things that are important for me, and I become my own teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Start noticing, oh my gosh, when I just move this just a little differently, I start feeling a little bit better. And if I just do this, which is called spontaneous Qigong,
Yeah.
or like, if I'm just dancing and just having a great time, I feel good.
Yeah.
So I do more of that. But that's one of the things that kind of pops into my head is this is just one of the trees in the forest, so
I love it.
Yeah.
A friend of mine gifted me some green dragon oolong tea from Spring Forest Qigong. That was so good, such a smooth tea. I wonder, do you use any of the teas for dredging the meridians before you practice, like some of the traditions recommend, or is that not something you incorporate?
I've been into that somewhat. I mean, the green tea is it's better for you than I mean some of the other kinds of tea or even like coffee or other things we drink. But I occasionally I come back to that, but it's not one of the things I've just gotten into, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I was just
I
curious.
mean, yeah, and different things resonate with different people,
Right.
So you just kind of follow what is it for you, and
yeah, to me it's kind of the ritual of the ceremony, with the tea ceremony.
Yeah.
And the circling with the moving the patterns of energy through the ritual and sharing it with others and just opening up like space between, like you and I, there's a space opening and things are being exchanged. It's this quality of friendship, right? With the chi, with the tea, with the other person, and that opening to the realization that there's only one of us here, one
Right.
awareness in multiple forms, and pouring itself into itself in different forms and mixing. And so I love that there's so many different traditions and varieties of practice that people can try out the different things and put together their own practice based on what feels easy and effortless, but also at the end where, like you say, it's all about how does it feel. And I'm someone who spent many, many years on a computer doing technical work, web design, and I was in a corporate position. And so my C7 is an area that I'm still trying to get the computer out of my body after all those years.
Sure.
So I appreciate you saying that. And maybe at the end of our talk today, you can show us an exercise that will help people free that sticky place up. Because there's a lot of us now with our heads down or looking forward into a screen and the shoulders come up. I'm guilty of that we need these practices that can counterbalance that postural behavior. And that I get that sense that in that position, energy is just pouring out of my body, and I need some practices to restore that, so I'm not constantly losing, that pattern doesn't just continually continue, does, that I can put a interruption in there to start to reverse that and bring energy into the lower center.
Yeah. No, there's Master Lin says the simplest solution is oftentimes the most powerful.
I agree.
And we make things difficult.
Yeah.
So we've been taught, that there's these energy buttons that are just like these places that are the most, and then energy channels. So we just kind of keep it at that. So all blockages have something to do with those things. But there's other simple things that he emphasizes and infuses into Spring Forest Qigong. One of them is that your best teachers are your students. So you learn from your students.
Definitely.
Like right now, I'm feeling in this place of gratitude that I'm with you in this because I'm learning from you.
Mm.
And so you're my teacher right now.
Mm.
And that it kind of changes rather than I'm the master, you're the master teaching me.
Mm.
And so it's kind of, that's a little thing. And then another thing that he says, he grew up in China. So the first poem that he learned in English was good, better, best, never let it rest. And so that's one of the operating things is if you're just doing something and you're focusing, you have an intention to heal, whatever you're doing is good. But you can always get better. You can hone that and improve it. So then, how can you improve? So there's some simple things as we do before we do each of the exercises or do any of the active exercises. And that is to set your intention.
Mm-hmm.
And so even before we started talking, my intention, I said, okay, I want to have a good conversation with you. I feel like I can learn something from you. And I'm going to say, I'm going to take at least 2 good ideas, Cindy, today. And so I'm listening for, okay, now what's the gem that I can take from my little conversation with you?
Mm.
So it feels really good. I'm feeling good. I mean, this is one of them already is, gosh, it feels good to be with you.
Oh, that's really sweet. Thank you.
And then I become a love radiator.
Mm.
So then when I have love in my heart, that's a much better place than being caught in some other kind of emotion of, there's a lot of, all blockages have something to do with our emotions.
Yeah.
So in Spring Forest Qigong, we do these 5 elements exercises, and one of them we focus on happiness. That balances the energy in the liver. And in the liver, we have, if too much energy, anger.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one of the major things with me was anger that I hadn't addressed.
Mm.
And so, but then I get through one layer of that, and then underneath that is, something else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, I've arrived, now I'm the master. No, I'm just starting. I'm a beginner.
Mm-hmm.
And so that idea of we're always in process. It's
Right.
just good, better, best. And so I'm kind of a poet. I like where things come from. I know then I kind of looked that up and I said, oh my gosh, that's a poem that came from the 4th century from the saint, Saint Jerome. He said, good, better, best, never let it rest till your good is better and your better best. And so each day, I wake up and say, okay, I'm going to be a love radiator today. Look in the mirror and say, Jerry, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to be the best focus for me today?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of reviewed, well, what am I going to do today? And gosh, I'm going to be with Cindy today.
No.
A date at 4:00. I have a date with somebody I want to get to know better because she's a beautiful soul and she's even better than I could imagine. Just
Oh, that's so lovely. Making me feel really warm and gushy. My eyes are watering. Like all the clear fluids are coming up, all the cheese flowing like a waterfall.
it's like what you send out comes back.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're like we're just like a love radiator. If you
Yeah.
send out fear, fear is going to come back. You're going to have more of that.
Yeah. It
And then,
reminds me of that term, spondic love. Have you ever heard of that? Spondic love?
well, it sounds intriguing. Tell me.
It's like the universe, if you will. It's like, I want you to have what you want. I want, you know, just to give and to see you fulfilled. And it's not about the self trying to get anything. It's just like wanting something for someone, even for yourself, but for everyone, like where life works for everyone and everyone gets to be free to be who they are and do what they enjoy and share what they want to share. And there's just this quality of wanting to pour on that
That's
juicy
how do you tell me what the word is? How do you spell it?
SPONDIC, I believe, spondic.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's putting it into one little nutshell. You focus on the other and try to bring out the best from the other.
Yeah, it's that generosity, like life is so generous and giving, right? And it's just a quality of expansion to it. Like there's no limit on love, right? So I think when we think of this kind of quality of spondic love, we think of it as something unusual, but it's really true. It's really nature. It's natural. It's the way things are. It's just that we have, like you say, stories or programs running that we've been conditioned to believe what's possible is actually less than what's actually here and available, which is infinite energy, right? Like there's no empty space. Everything's filled with life-giving energy. And that quality of spondic love is like, we want everyone to know that, and we want to share the tools, and we want to give that to people and put empowerment back in people's minds and hearts and hands and see it flourish.
Yeah, that's that reminds me of another thing. It's like most of us think, well, if we help others, it's going to drain us. It's based on this idea of scarcity. But the universe is so beautiful. The more we give away, the more we get. So it's kind of like the spondic love is a nice way of saying. I mean, it puts it in a nice little nutshell. It's the kind of thing I really like, because it fits with that idea that the universe is generous. Like you said, you use that word generous. It's infinite. There's infinite chi, and if we think there's only a small amount, and the more we give away, then we're gonna be stressed out. We're gonna be burned out. But if we turn that around and say the more we help others, the more we get back, and you operate that way, then you just become a love radiator. You just have so much love that you want to give it away. But the more you give away, the more you get. So the more you help others, all others, I mean, it's
all life. And then, you're leading me into this realization that you see yourself as everyone and everything. You are that, because there is only one consciousness, and it's you are that in all these different forms. So when you're relating to another being, you're really relating at the deepest level to yourself in another form. And so why wouldn't you want to give yourself, to have that spondic love towards yourself in all life forms, right? And of course, there are certain life forms that are totally disconnected from that reality, that don't act in ways that of what we're speaking of, that are harder to reach. But still at the core, there is that connection of we all belong to the same source.
Right. That's at the core of this whole thing. We're all one. You see, and then when we see ourselves as separate, you say, "Oh, that one's different from me." But and in Spring Forest Qigong, it's called different terms, but Master Lin says it's all about love, kindness, forgiveness with compassion. So forgiveness, that's what forgiveness is about, is once we start making judgments, then we get stuck in this dualistic thinking. But if we just say, this is part of me. So if I'm upset with something, it's something inside of me that hasn't learned yet. I'm still in this process. So if something strikes me as, oh my gosh, I don't know, it surprises me. I'll just tell you just a brief little story here. I had a woman I was working with. She was in my groups, and I was just so thrilled. And then I happened to see her actually at a farmer's market, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you for some time. Are you still practicing Spring Forest Qigong?" And she said, "Well, I quit listening to your your little podcast because I always started poems with I always started sessions with a poem." She says, "Because you just use male poets all the time." I thought, oh my God, no, I do others. And then, then I thought about it, and I said, this is something I need to look at. So then I started just taking, no matter what poet it was, and usually if they said male terms, I'd turn it into female. And it just feels so much better. She gave me a great gift.
Yeah.
At first I thought it was a thorn. It's like, oh no, you don't understand. But then I just had to see that, I grew up in a society where it was very paternalistic, male dominant. And then I started looking at my life and saying, yes, I have had so many privileges. I'm a white male, and I didn't realize that was there. But she gave me a great gift. I just feel thrilled now, but it's that way with all of our illness. Illnesses are just a signal. It's just a symptom. It's just saying, take a look at this. So one of the things I had was very severe headaches. I had headaches like you couldn't believe when I started getting into Spring Forest Qigong. That's what brought me in. That was the number one symptom that I had, was I just had these splitting headaches. And some of this, it wasn't just one thing that I did. It was just like several things, that many things that I had to do to change my thinking. But different things would come up at different times. And then I thought, for instance, I started having headaches when I'd play racquetball. And I love racquetball. And I thought, this is, so I explored, maybe I'm not getting enough water and I'm doing whatever. And then I was with one of my friends, another master of Spring Forest Qigong. His name is Gudu, Master Gudu. And he says, Jerry, I think it's just the way you're holding your head when you play racquetball. And again, I said, I just kind of denied it. And then when I got into the court, I just started relaxing, and I would be kind of up tense, get too tense, just the way I was holding my head. When I changed that slightest little change made a world of difference. I'm playing racquetball with Friday again, and now I'm just looking forward to it. And racquetball is a great metaphor for me, because I've played and my partner and I have played for over 35 years, once a week. And he's 83 and I'm 77. And, we both have had illnesses and injuries. Both of one time I hurt my left knee, and the doctors said, I wouldn't be able to play racquetball anymore. And, I'd send a different message.
Right.
Healed that knee. A few years later, hurt the right knee. Both of them have been healed. One of my strongest things is my knees now.
Wow.
You know, if I would have taken the message, oh, I guess I'm wearing my knees out. Well, the message has so much to do with, so when you tell yourself, I have such and such illness, I have leukemia, there's not much I can do about leukemia. I mean, that term. But what I could do something about, I got a new oncologist and she said, you have a low vitamin B12. I can do something about vitamin B12. I can change that. So I didn't make the problem something I couldn't solve. I had to make the problem something that's doable.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
also that you see yourself now very differently, I imagine, since being introduced to Qigong, is that you see yourself as an energy body first.
mhm,
And from the allopathic medical model, it's more that we treat symptoms of the physical, but we haven't really looked at the cause, right, in the energetics. So I would assume that not only changing your perspective, I had a teacher once, he told me, perspective isn't everything, it's the only thing.
yes, very good.
So there's another takeaway for you.
Yeah, I've got two already now.
And it didn't come from me. I'm just passing on the wisdom from one of my teachers.
Well, you put it though in another way. I mean, see, it's like a lot of times the things that we need to learn is somebody that's just with us and we're in this great conversation. You put it in a way that it went in.
Uh-huh.
Somebody else could have told me that same thing, or I could have read it 50 different times in different books, but it may not have gone in. The message didn't go in. But I just felt something when you said that.
Yeah, I think it's all for me. It went in for me when I first heard it too. And I've used it, constantly, daily. It's just because it's that thing you mentioned, that the simplest thing can be the most profound. And so mainly the healing work that I do with myself and what I share when I teach is just reframing things and offering new perspectives.
Yeah, you're an excellent teacher because I can tell. I mean, it's just like, for me, you're an excellent teacher.
Well, being that you're a teacher of teachers, I'll take that as a very high compliment. Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things Master Lin is, there's a motto, I don't have it up here on my wall here, but he said, what we're here to do is teachers teaching teachers to teach teachers. And he says it in Chinese, it's like it came to him one time, that's what we're doing. So when I learn something and then I teach others, then I feel good because I can pass it on. So I can help make your life just a little bit better.
And isn't that interesting though, that you're a professor of education, right?
Special education, yeah.
Yeah, so you've always been in the field of teaching teachers. And then now it's gone into this other field, like these fields have merged, right? With the Qigong and teaching Qigong. And there's this theme that is running through your life about teachers teaching teachers and just keeping that lineage open and available to as many people as possible.
Yeah, that's a good term too, lineage. That's a very good term. Just sometimes just the right word makes the difference. And that's a very, very good word to use. I see when I got ill, I was 50, some 55, and I would have been eligible to retire. I didn't want to retire. And, so instead of retiring at 55, I was able to teach 20 more years. I officially retired on my 75th birthday from teaching. So I had 47 years as a professor of special education, just in the college. That was before, I had other teaching experience in universities, in public schools. But nonetheless, when I was retiring, they were throwing this party for me on my 75th birthday, in a retirement party. And I said, this is my graduation. I have just started to climb. I'm looking at this as I'm just beginning. And I still believe that now. I feel so good to be able to teach and I'm not even sure where this is going to go. I mean,
Right.
I have an office at the university, and I'm making a presentation come April 13th, where there's going to be a bunch of people from the university that are going to be there. I may have another kind of capacity there teaching Qigong, but I know it has something to do with Qigong, and it has something to do with storytelling and with poetry, because all three of those things coming together. But storytelling is everything storytelling is at the core of everything. Master Lin tells us to tell our stories.
Yeah.
And when I learned to think of myself as a love radiator, he was telling the story about he was at Mayo. They wanted him to make a presentation to people that didn't believe, they didn't believe this, this was years ago. They didn't believe that this. And so he was sitting next to a guy that was, I don't know what his specialty was, but he said he didn't believe a word that Master Lin said, but he said, I came in here, I had pain in my back, and my pain is gone now. So Master Lin says, well, that's just be a love radiator.
You don't have to believe.
You don't have to try to change somebody to argue with them. Just be, like Gandhi said, be the change. Be the change you want to see in the world. The most powerful force in the universe is universal unconditional love. More powerful than anything.
Yeah.
Love always wins. So just by being a love radiator, just being be the change they want to see in the world, and then, gosh, I think maybe I can make a little difference here.
Yeah, I love that quote. And I want to share something with you, a little perspective change. You tell me what you think about that. So at one point, that quote, it dawned on me to change it up. So be the change you want to see in the world. I changed it up to be the world you want to see in the change.
Wow, that's a good one. Say it again.
Be the world you want to see in the change, right?
Beautiful. Yeah.
So it's like you're already, the wholeness, and you want to see that in the changes in the world. So you have to carry and embody, right?
Well, that really deepens it.
There's something about it. I can't really define it or explain it, but it just came to me somehow about that quote, to say it backwards. And it was like, oh, there's a shift there.
Yeah, I love that, because it's, I could feel a little jolt of chi, or a little jolt of adrenaline when you said it.
Yeah, it's sort of like a interrupt, it's like what do they call it? It kind of quiets the mind for a moment.
Yeah, it's like a pattern interrupt or something.
It's a mind trap or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think that might be the first time I've ever shared it.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, this is a great conversation. I mean, this is a great dialogue or whatever. I love this. This is just what I love doing.
Oh, good. Yeah, me too. That's why I've gotten back to it. I did it for many, many years, and then I took a break. And I'll share with you, you mentioned veterans, around 50 years old, having to turn towards their pain instead of, continue to push it down. I work with a system called Human Design and Gene Keys, and also integrates components of astrology. And there is something that happens midlife for all of us called our Chiron Return. It happens around age 50. And for me, my Chiron Return, I had an injury. I mean, it wasn't really an injury. I'm not really sure how it happened. I had a very serious cough, and after that, I had a blockage in one of my kidneys, and it required surgery. And luckily, the surgery was successful. It saved the kidney, but and it wasn't a stone, but I was operated on by a robot, and that caused a lot of PTSD for me. Like, I had severe PTSD after the surgery. And it was probably from, early childhood stuff too, but this really compounded it. And my body had made me aware that when I was anesthetized, my body was immobilized, it's laying there, but it was still awake, even though my consciousness wasn't the present. And so here it was being, cut into by a machine. At the deepest layer, as you know, kidneys are the deepest organ in the body, and there's fear, they're associated with fear.
Right.
So for several years after that surgery, I had developed things that I'd never had, like claustrophobia and anxiety disorders, and it took me at least 5 years to clear that energy from my system. And Qigong was one of the things that I utilized to come back home to my body in a way that it could trust, because it was at that point like a wounded animal. And you know what they say about wounded animals, you don't want to approach a wounded animal, right? And I was living inside of one. It was, so it was a really interesting time.
Story, yeah. Yeah, and very, very interesting too. I mean, it's kind of that you said at age 50, it's kind of like a universal, isn't it? That
there's something that happens astrologically where we
that's astrologically, because I don't know, there's just a lot of things I don't quite understand, but are very, very interesting to me, because I haven't gone into depth in it. It's just that I don't have a great understanding of it yet. But interesting.
Yeah, I don't have, all the answers for sure, but I know that we all attract into our lives the systems and the language that helps us explain our knowing, right? So for me, it's been human design and Qigong and yoga and different things have I've been attracted to for a reason. And I understand, I learn these systems, and then the frequency that gets shared through me has this structure to it, framed by the language that I've learned in these systems and the way things work mechanically, so I can explain to myself and other people what I'm experiencing. And then that's helpful, in the way that I share, hopefully. But the thing about our wounding, when it comes up for healing, it's like, the mythologist and storyteller Michael Meade talks about the genius myth. And he's not the only one. Several people talk about this, how our genius is hidden inside our wound. So we have to face our woundedness and unwind the wound, wound and wound. And it's in that turning towards that pain and fear and all of the things that we're clearing from the organs through the healing sounds, that reveals that gift that we carry that wants to be given.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that's Michael Meade. That's a very, very interesting perspective there also. And I mean, I just think lots of these people that are, the people, the wise people, they're all over, I mean, it's the wisdom is in all of us, but that's kind of this common thing is if we find our purpose, Master Lin calls it your soul purpose, and he has a whole course called Your Soul Purpose. But if you come to that of what it is your purpose for being here, your purpose with something bigger than yourself, some bigger thing, then you catch on fire with it, and it's like, but we wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't have the obstacles that we needed to work through to get to that. You wouldn't be who you are if you didn't have any challenges.
Yeah.
Need that. And it's just intriguing to me and fun and curious. But Master Lin says he says something else. He says that most of us deal with the known, but the chi, the real power is in the unknown.
Mhm.
And so it's like, that's where 95% of the energy is in the unknown. So if we're willing to delve into that unknown and go into the uncertainty, to live with that, then we're alive then.
Yeah, I agree. I think,
We tend to play it safe, say, okay, I know all of this and I'm going to operate, but you just become part of the herd then.
yeah.
Like,
I like what you talked about, purpose. Yeah. It reminds me of a quote by Mark Twain. And he said, the two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why.
oh, yeah, he said lots of things in a very, very interesting way. Very interesting
Yeah.
character, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like about, to explore the unknown and how I think this is shifting culturally. I hope so anyway, but for so long it's been the mystics that are sensitive and open to the subtle fields and are pointing at things that are real in their reality, and then the ones that are more logical and practical that don't accept that reality marginalize that. And so, to me, it's not practical or realistic to only consider 1% of reality, but to open ourselves to the larger reality, like we were talking about in allopathic medicine, where most of what's considered is what we can see, right, physically and through X-ray and so forth. But the energetic bodies are not considered. And that's all changing. There's such an emergence of energetic wisdom and healing, energy healing coming into awareness, and more evidence of results of that. So I think it's changing, and we must have had to go through this phase, evolutionary, our process to, go. It feels like you go to some extreme and then you come back to the middle and go the other extreme. There's this winding road of consciousness exploring itself through these eras. And
yeah, that's I know the Master Lin talks about balance, that we can get out of balance, and maybe what we're going through lots of imbalances with the pandemic and wars going on, and the all of these things with the environment that's changes. And if we look at it as just things are out of balance, and maybe we're evolving into something, it has to be transformed. It's not good or bad, it's out of balance.
yeah.
Bad. There's no good or bad energy. It's just all a matter of balance. It's it says it's just sometimes energy in the wrong places, or chi in the wrong places. So that's what you could think of illness as. Just there's this something operating there, but it's
yeah, something's not evenly distributed, whether it's stress or illness or health and vitality. There's not an even distribution. There's some real sticky areas.
Yeah, it's we're living in interesting times. That's a Chinese, I think, a Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times.
Yeah, for the longest time I thought it was a blessing, and then I realized it was intentionally a curse. I was like, oh, I always thought I wanted to live in interesting times.
Well, it's both. I mean, it's like the word crisis. It's opportunity, it's danger or opportunity.
Yeah, true.
And both it's something about the both and rather than either or.
Mm,
We've
absolutely.
lived in this, I mean, for years and years and years in this either or kind of dichotomy of, we could understand it better when they could analyze it and take it apart. But the analysis was so, we got out of balance in our culture, in Western culture.
Yeah.
Everything has to be an analysis and explained and measured with whatever, like the machine can measure it exactly, and it gets out of balance. It's like we lose the human element. So it can happen.
Yeah,
It's
too much left brain.
yin and yang, out of balance.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I want to just give you an opportunity, Jerry, to share maybe just something you think our listeners might get value out of in terms of your personal experience of integrating Qigong into your life, or being a teacher of Qigong, and what you've seen happen in your students' lives. Just as we come to the end of our conversation, what would bring value to our listeners?
Well, I mean, just like these little energy buttons, there's these energy buttons all over, so there's these stomach channels are under here, and there's bladder channels up here. So that's part of the preparation for Spring Force Qigong exercises, is to open up these blockages. And there's a point, if you just put your hand right behind your head, right at the base there, and that's an energy point has to do with the eyes and the ears. And that was a real major one for me, where I would have headaches right in that spot. So an exercise now during the pandemic that Master Lin is emphasizing is just dolphining the neck. So you sit like you could sit, or you could do it standing up. And then this is the simple exercise. It's the best is if you have like a firm, something against your back, so that you can just dolphin from the diaphragm up. Okay, so we're just going to dolphin the upper spine. And it's a simple exercise. I'll just show you. You just lean back, catch like a ball of energy or an egg under your chin, and then bring it under, and then exhale, raising up. So you just do this, and then you just notice the subtle little feeling. Oh, and I just hear crack, crack, crack. And breathe up, and there's only good, better, best, just kind of gets better as you do it. But so many people, I mean, we're finding that just about most of us are on computers or on iPhones quite a bit of the time. So we're kind of bent over here, kind of looking down. And so it's bringing on blockages.
Yeah.
It's just too much of the same kind of, so it's just a very, very simple movement. And another part of, becoming a Qigong master is we took a course, and before the pandemic, we could do it in person. So it was called Qisage. So you just find where these energy buttons are and you massage them. So that the major one is the C7, that little bump at the base of the neck. So just reach down there and feel your C7. Just to see the bump at the base of the neck. Just massage that. And just let it get nice and warm, and say, open, 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 channels open, completely healed. And I mean, you can do it on yourself, but it helps other people. So my wife, for instance, sometimes she'll just have whatever it is, headaches, or she has a tendency to kind of overdo things and just not rest. And oftentimes, I'll just massage it, or just, and I can't rely on the words, but usually what happens is she just gets really sleepy and takes a nap then. And the body just needs
I would like to find that nap button.
well, I mean, that's one of the things. Sleep is a form of Qigong.
For sure.
So it's just like when we get uptight, it's one of the best things we can do is just stop.
Mhm.
and take it easy. That's we kind of brought this on ourselves. So, and I'll tell you just I kind of teach through stories, but you might be able to notice I've had a little bit of surgery here on my nose.
Oh, I haven't noticed.
Oh, okay, so I had this little, what do you call it? It was like this, it started out like a pimple, and then it was just became this little, like a little thing there. And, I didn't think anything of it. I, tried my own healing and whatever. And then I had a little session with Master Lin. And so I'm telling him about some of the things that I was, and I said, well, I have this. And he said, wait a minute, that's all related. This has to do with, you have a blockage in your spleen. And that has to do with worry. You're worrying about something. And I was worried. I didn't realize this. But I mean, I had to go to the formal medicine to get it healed. But it's healing so well. But, it's just like I was a professor for many years, and I worked with many, many of my colleagues. And a very, very common area for them to have blockages was up here in the neck. They'd have shoulder pain, locked shoulders. Well, that's just a blockage in the pancreas.
Mm.
I want to usually work up here, but it's like if you go to the root cause,
Yeah.
so many professors are in their head.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, including myself, so I mean, it helped me to realize that I'm just like all these other people. I have thousands of books, and I was always looking for the answers in the books. And I love doing that. I love books. And that's what made me a good professor, but it got out of balance.
Yeah. And
in my heart. So then when I just could say, okay, I'm going to have to get back into, so I just have to realize that, I have, I'm a little more vulnerable up here. But it's not only that one thing, but if you have issues with your shoulders and pain up here, it probably has something to do with your worry and anxiety.
Mm.
So then I put more emphasis on peace. Like, okay, I'm going to just practice being more peaceful. What can I do to help bring about peace? I kind of made this a long story, but but just that dolphining, sometimes the simplest little things. So it helps me to hold my head a little bit differently and say, feeling better now. I can do this. I can preparation and send the message, completely healed, completely balanced, work with the universe. There's a password we use in Spring Forest Qigong. I am in the universe. The universe is in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I combine together as one. So it's sending that intention of, I'm going to go back into nature and let nature heal me. I'm a part of nature. Mm. And so just sometimes this tiniest little thing will make the biggest difference. But if you just get one thing from me today, is that, okay, most of the blockages start here at the C7. And if you're with a friend, I mean, we're always with somebody and they have something, you say, oh, do you mind if I just do something? And you just massage their back. You just put their hand there and you just send light there and send love and say, I love you, Cindy. Completely healed, completely back to normal, and see light in your heart and see light in my heart. Feels good.
Yeah, thank you. It reminds me of the opposite of worry for me is trust. Mm-hmm. And, when I was dealing with my health challenges, my story was, I'm never going to get better. I had this because it was one thing, the pain was overwhelming enough. Mm-hmm. But what was even more overwhelming than the pain that I was in was the story I was telling myself that this was going to be for the rest of my life and I was never going to get back to. Mm-hmm. So now in hindsight, looking back, I can see how my body healed even from that going, that low. It's come back and that makes me trust, right? So if I ever get in another situation where I have a healing crisis and that I can lean into to two things: one, not believing in the story, and two, trusting that my body will find its way back to health.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, so that's kind of the core of everything. Is just like we find that we can transform, we can change. That's
Yeah.
I don't know, it's all about change and transformation. There was a book I loved very much when I was in graduate school. It was called How People Change
Mm.
by Alan Wheeless. And at the end of the book, he says, sometimes we have to try harder and sometimes we have to try differently.
Mm.
And there's always a different, things can always change. It's like energy, chi can be transformed. Einstein said it, energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be transformed. It can be changed. So for you, trust was a big thing.
Yeah. Trusting life, to me, that's what relaxation is. Like when I relaxing, for some people it's like taking a nap or laying in a hammock. But for me, it's trusting life. That's what relaxing is. And that then when we're relaxed, chi flows, right? Energy flows through the system when we're relaxed. And I have a tendency to be someone who efforts, right? And I take on a lot of responsibility, and I'm creative and sensitive. So I take on a lot of information from different directions, and to be able to, be in the speed of my life as it is and remain relaxed is the challenge. Like trying to slow it down really never worked, just to relax in the speed of it, because I'm just someone who takes in a lot of information the way I'm designed. So I really couldn't control how much information. I can control somewhat my environment, but yeah, I'm learning just to relax with that, the amount of activity that flows here, and be an observer and a participant in witnessing it getting done through me rather than being the doer. That takes off some pressure, and I trust things always get done. So it's another way just to relax and to trust it always gets done. And
good. That's good. That's a good. It's a great story.
yeah. Well, thanks for sharing all your stories, and I'm happy to get to know you a little better. And I look forward, when I come to town, I'll definitely look you up and come to your class at Whitney.
Oh, I'd love to have you, and I'd love to just sit down and talk with you some more.
Okay, we'll do it.
Okay.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Jerry, is there a way that people can find out more? Would you like to share anything about how people can reach you, or do you not want to be available, or do you want to be available for?
Well, yeah, I have you can just reach me at my email address. It's just jjwellik@stcloudstate.edu. And Wellik is Wellik. You can reach me that way. If you're interested in my Spring Forest Qigong practice, just contact the Whitney Center at St. Cloud State, and it's on Zoom. We practice.
Oh, I could practice then?
Yeah.
From here?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I don't have to come to town then.
Well, you can do the practice with me. It's we practice from 12 to 1 our time. This is Minnesota time, Central Standard Time, on Mondays and Wednesdays. I'm not the most, usually people just have to contact the Whitney Center to get the Zoom link, because they send it to people. I've got some people from California and some from Texas, and some people really resonate with, and they've gotten great results. And then there's other people they resonate with differently.
Right.
So we have it both on Zoom and then in person too. So I have 8 or 9 people usually are there in person, and then whoever comes on Zoom, usually 10, 15 people on Zoom. So that would be the best way for you to kind of just get a taste of what this is about. It's just doing it. I just guide you along, and you just do what I'm doing. And
I'll have to introduce you to a couple of my friends there that practice and let them come and meet you and experience your class. And
okay, yeah.
I know we have another mutual friend, Jerry Sparby.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Jerry's a very good friend of mine, and
Yeah, he's a wonderful man and really supportive of family. I remember my husband and I would take classes with him on parenting when we were young. We had young children, and we were in the Ricori district.
Yeah, no, I don't know Jerry very, very well. He's one of my longtime best friends. I really, really enjoy him. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell him I said hi. I don't know if he'll remember me, but
Well, I think he will. Yeah. He will.
It's been many years. Okay, my new friend, Jerry. Thank you for coming on and sharing so generously your wisdom and your experience, your stories, and we didn't hear one of your poems yet, but maybe do you have one you would like to share as we close?
Well, okay, I'll do a poem for you. There's a poem I like. It's by David Budbill. It's not one that I wrote, but I like to just kind of perform poems. It's called Bugs in a Bowl. Like this. Han Shan, that great and crazy, wonderful Chinese poet of 1,000 years ago, said, "We're just like bugs in a bowl, all day going around, never leaving their bowl." I say, that's right. Every day, climbing up the steep side, sliding back over and over again, around and around, up and back down. Sit in the bottom of the bowl, head in your hands, cry, moan, feel sorry for yourself, or look around, see your fellow bugs, walk around, say, "Hey, how you doing?" Say, "Nice bowl." Bugs in a bowl.
That's clever. I like that one. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
It's playful. Appreciate it.
Yep, I enjoyed being with you, and until we meet again.
Yeah, we'll do this again. Thank you for your time, and thank you everyone for tuning in. I appreciate it. And yeah, until next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.